Our job is to market that product to the consumer who are agents. The 7-level comp plan is how we get compensated, because we don't get a salary deal. We get compensated. How we get compensated on marketing the product. Hey, we are professional network marketers. So what does networking entail? What you talked about. What else is marketing? Media. So if you do those two things aggressively, then you will be disproportionately rewarded because of the comp plan. I was like, that's right. That's why everybody should be doing media, because we get basically paid. We are EXP's marketing force, marketing partner, and they just share half of the revenue with us.
Casey was the blonde?
The one whose husband died that they gave the award to. She is a professional network marketer. She's been in a network marketing company called New Skin for like 25 years. So she's built a large organization there. Plus she has 2,000 agents in. That's why when I hear her speak, like, she knows the end. Like, she knows what the business is, inside and out.
She gets it and has executed.
Well, she's very clear. Because in that meeting, they were talking about like how, oh, like, you know, we should make it to where like there's not silos and everybody's helping. And she was like, well, I'd like to offer a different point of view. Like, you want leaders to lead. And it's okay to have like healthy rivals and competition. And if you get beat by somebody that's better than you, like, okay, that's what it is. And you want leaders to lead. She also said that you should keep it like uniform till a certain point, and then like let people do whatever they want to do.
You said when an agent has 500 people under that, they could start their own brand, like their own website.
But before that, they should be under like the brand, like illegal. You know what I mean? It's like, and the way a guy described it, which I thought was insightful, was like, you know, Gary Keller used to tell people this is where entrepreneurs thrive, and he was like, no, this is where entrepreneurs thrive, because it's like we're all the platform is the platform. But it gives us an opportunity. It's like you're in an app store, and you can have your own app in iTunes. You know what I'm saying? And not everybody's going to be everybody's flavor. That's okay. So it's just very insightful.
Personality, approach. There's so many factors why somebody want to join you or not.
Right. Like we were talking with Carla, had like this awareness. She's like, oh, like I can do more of what like I'm doing. Well, and I think Carla in the past, she was like, oh, like I do the operations side. And Aaron does like the traction side. She was like, oh, I can do it. I'm like, yeah. You could have YouTube videos where it says, you want to have a confidential conversation.
I don't have my own calendar.
But here's the thing. So what Jose was telling me at his event he was at, there's a guy there that talked about, he's basically talking about duplication, leadership. What he said is there's 12 different skills of leadership. One is like coaching people one-to-one.
Right.
One is like events. One is like running a third-party call. One is like time management. You know what I mean? So there's like 12 different skills, and I told him that would be a perfect thing to talk about at the leadership retreat in the DR. So what's interesting is right now, like, and as he was reading them, it's like email management, like all these different things. And I was listening to him, I'm like, yeah, I have, you know, a lot of those things, but he was saying like, you can also seek out training on each one of those individual skills. So like for you, a skill that's starting to, you became aware of today that you could cultivate is running a third party.
But also having a link and putting it on all my social media and blasting it out.
And your own separate calendar that's not mine.
Right. And having a YouTube video about the model and about why.
How it changed their life.
How it changed my life specifically.
Yeah, and understanding the other different models when they ask you questions. Like all the stuff that I'm doing, like you can do that.
And I could talk about my experience as a mom and how I want more time with my kids.
So you can bring that. What I'm saying is like also understanding the difference between the different models. So when they ask you questions on third party calls, you know what you're talking about.
Right. I need to like really know my stuff.
So you've stepped into, let's say, like the skill of events because you've done them. You stepped into media, which I think is part of one of those 12 skills. Then you've also, now it's like stepping into running third party.
I think the email marketing too, using like the AI prompts, you can create a whole campaign.
Yeah.
So people, they maybe go on your link and they...
Yeah, then they're in the ecosystem, and then they get an email.
You tag them, and then they're getting emails.
Yeah, drip campaign.
Both of you are attracting different people.
Yeah, what I told her today, I'm like, you will attract someone who will not actually be attracted to me. Like, A completely different person. And that's okay.
Really,
And now that's your superpower as a female.
well, what really got me is like, I want to help my sister. I feel like she really needs it. And I feel like this gave me kind of like a plan and a path.
And tools and like a mental map.
Yeah, that I could teach her to do too.
It's not her. It's how many other females.
It's not just her. I have a
That's
list
what
in
I
my
mean.
head of
It's
other
not just her.
people in our
Well, and I think she also became aware because she's seeing what it's done for us, and like she knows that what we're doing is like wild. She has this awareness that like she can do that for other people, and that's what like gets you.
That's what gets me excited because like we're good. Like, we're financially well off. And so me making more money for myself is not that exciting. It doesn't get me up. But if you tell me that I can help my sister change her life or other ladies like single moms in the organization, like that gets me excited.
Countless other
That
women.
gets me excited. Like if I could change their
Like legit.
And I feel like it's the first time I saw a plan that I could teach them.
It's good. They have to like, somebody has to tell them to turn it off.
Well,
how many conversations have you had with me about that? Like they have to tell you to be like, yo.
Well, you hear balance. You hear everybody talk about balance. Let that be balance. You gotta balance.
Yeah.
It's like, it's the goal and everything get out of the way to get to the goal.
Sense of urgency. There's not an off switch, and it's a recognition that it's a season.
Right, because you don't want to.
So one of the things that I was aware of too, like let's say you build to like 2,000. The probability, naturally and normally, and particularly depending on where you are in your life cycle, that you're going to aggressively charge is probably small. It's normal and natural.
Sure.
Because at that level, what I'm also aware of is like I was talking to Mike and she hit the 2,000, where he's growing at 100 agents a month, independent of them. Like, when it starts to aggressively build, so as a natural byproduct, you probably want to enjoy some of the fruits of it and go hiking for 3 weeks, which he's doing in June, or travel like every, you know what I mean?
Otherwise, why are you doing this?
It's normal, right? It's natural. So it's a recognition, it's a season. I told Carter when we first started doing this, it's the same thing as like with the real estate thing. And that didn't work out the same because it wasn't as leveraged, didn't compound. But it did in the fact that it took me 3 to 5 years to acquire the specialized knowledge to be able to make 7 figures selling real estate. Well, with this, you can spend 3 to 5 years of building and cultivating leaders in that, like radically take your foot off the pedal, and it will continue to grow independent of you.
It's self-sustained.
It's 3 to 5 years for you to have time for your vacation freedom. 3 to 5 years of flying around the country, driving to people, doing events. 3 to 5 years of volume over time. You know what I mean? Like ridiculous amounts of volume over that time frame for the long-term payoff in a vehicle that compounds and is highly leveraged. And people won't understand it. They won't really get what you're doing. But like bees don't take the time to explain to to explain to flies why honey's better than shit. So like they don't understand what we're doing because most people are playing a short game. What we're doing is playing a long game. The issue with long games, it takes a while to get like traction. It's fun and juicy and traction. Sure. And I think that bamboo example is gorgeous. Yeah. It's perfect.
And I think part of it is skilling up.
Yeah.
I had the thought today of, all right, I've been here once before. It was in my real estate business. And now it's just skilling up in this industry. Yeah. And knowing a presentation and how to ask questions of people to qualify them enough to where then it just becomes, okay, I'm doing this again, I'm doing this again, I'm doing this again, I'm doing this again.
Explaining to Jose like that as a professional in this game, it requires similar skill sets, some that are different. And it's the acquisition of those skill sets. Where he was saying he was in a room with a leader that built 1-800-JUNK into the company that it is. And it said in the duplication of leaders typically have like 12 different skills that he mentioned. One of them was being able to do events.
But it goes to a mark set.
One is learning how to coach one-to-one. One is learn how to build people one-to-many. One was like time management. One is like conflict resolution. being able to resolve conflict.
It's going to happen.
It's going to happen.
You've already experienced.
Oh yeah.
What is
And so it was interesting because I was talking to Ricky, and his natural disposition is to move away from conflict. He doesn't like it. So there was someone he was talking to who said that they had conflict with Jose because Jose tried to go after a listing that he had. But he really likes me and he likes my content and he watches it all the time and he's like all about it. So he's like, I don't know, like, what do you think I should do? And I was like, it's interesting our different dispositions, because I've learned that skill set of conflict resolution, not only through selling real estate in high volume, but I also trained with Rick and with Gremlin for 10 years. So I know how to constructively work through conflict and do it well. And so his is what do you think I should do? And my answer to him was, get him on the phone right now. Let me talk to him. Right? So other people who don't have that skill set are like, let's see how it goes, like da-da-da. I'm like, no, let's get him on the phone right now. I want to talk to him about it right now.
Squash it.
It won't go away.
It won't go away. Yeah. But what I thought was really insightful, and I told Jose at the Elite Builders Leadership Retreat in the DR, he can talk about this. So really in building leaders, it's a recognition. I told him what would be really awesome is, let's say we have a board of like leaders in the organization with a report card on those skill sets. So like Mark's like a 10 on this, he's like a 5 on this. He's like an 8 on this, he's like a 7 on this. So that way we know,
Fall on people.
and we know what areas they need to work on and what areas they can help others with. Because if you're a 10 at something and Dan's a 7, I'd be like, yo, you need to talk to Mark about that, on how to do that. And that's super helpful. And I think with radical transparency and with no ego, so with that exercise we did today about like, what are my strengths and weaknesses, right?
Yeah.
That requires like you not getting upset about what somebody says accurately about what could be a weakness for you. And being vulnerable. Well, yeah, the person who's giving you that guidance is giving it to you from a place of love. Like, I'm not trying to be an asshole. Sure intent. Yeah, and what I think is also true is that with those type of report cards, you know who to match with who would be like really good team to work on something together. Does that make sense? So in a very interesting way, it just happened to be that way. But when we were doing strengths and weaknesses, what Carla's weaknesses are, I happen to be very strong in. And what my weaknesses are, she's exceptionally strong in. So together, we're actually a really good team. And what's happening now is that with what you were saying, you're starting to acquire some of those other skill sets, or you're open to it, and you're aware that through the acquisition of those other skill sets, you can actually lead other people and change their lives.
And I don't have to be as good as you are.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter.
Yes.
It's a matter of doing it.
Just doing it.
Right.
Yeah.
And like Casey said, the only way that I'm going to get better
Is by doing
it and playing back.
Yeah, because she asked her, she's like, well, as an introvert, how'd you get better at speaking? She's like, I had to speak all the time.
Yeah.
And the thing that gets in our way also is, and I know I've experienced this, is my thought always goes to, well, I'm not as good as. So then I shut down.
When they were asking about production numbers, it's like, who here has sold X amount of homes you were one of the top 10% standing. So I looked at you, I'm like, do you see you see what I'm talking about? It's like, that's who you are. Yeah.
What he was talking about, you have, like, for doing these events, there's got to be a skill that you're giving to these agents to go to these events to do it. So skilling up.
I said to you, where like you have the intestinal fortitude and courage where you started doing the events, right?
Yeah.
And he asked me, he's like, can you want to give me some honest feedback? I was like, yeah, bro, here's what worked really well. Right? And I was like, yeah, and what I'm also aware of is from a speaking perspective, you can get better at telling stories and with interacting with the crowd. He's like, all right, what do you mean? I'm like, you're just like talking to them. And I was like, well, start with a heart story of you sleeping on your parents' couch when you're 30. And then also asking engaging questions. Like, you've seen me speak where I'm like, how many people besides me have ever had that experience? Right? And when I'm walking by people, I actually look right at them while I'm talking to them. Or like, hey, I'm noticing some heads nodding. Or what do you think this means? Where when I did the thing where I was like, who does Michael Jordan's mom represent? And then be quiet. Instead of telling them, because it gets interaction. But you were like, oh yeah, that's accurate. and I can work on that.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's iteration. And it's
just doing it.
that's right. And what's happening, what I'm aware of too, is like we all have report cards, and what I view like my role, and essentially your role is for the people that you bring into your orbit, is to like know as best as I can people's report cards, and then be able to help them in the areas where they need the most help.
That's huge. Yeah.
Because essentially by doing that, I'm equipping you to do that for someone else.
How will we test them? How do you envision that we could
I think we get from Jose what those different skills are, and then look at it and see if we need to add anything to it. And then and then at the leadership retreat, we can do like report cards.
we could rate ourselves, and then others can rate us. Oh, we'll get it, and it's anonymous.
And then we can take those like dry erase things. No, look, we can take those dry erase things, and I don't know if it even has to be anonymous, but you can take those dry erase things, stick them on the wall, so it's like Aaron, da da da, Chris, da da da. You know what I mean? And we can see what, where it is, and then everybody circles the one, like maybe one or two that they need the most help with. But then you know them. I know that as a leader. You know that as a leader, and you can work on it.
Focus.
Because what this is leadership and duplication. That's what it is. And duplication.
I'm very much like how he is. It's like all the good stuff is great. Yeah. Tell me what I need. Tell me what I need to work on. Like, what is it? That's.
But here's the thing that
which I appreciate that you give the honest feedback of.
And
all right,
here's
what you're doing that you need to work on.
Here's the thing that I learned from that, Dan. When I roll over the good stuff, like today, when you looked at me, we also don't acknowledge what our strengths are, and then we can't have the like, you know how he's confident all the time?
Yeah.
That's where we can come from then.
It's
not
true.
from a place of cockiness, which he displays, but from a place of
We all do.
from
We joke, but
Rooster on it.
yeah, we joke.
When we know it, then we can really.
It's true, and
I just became aware of is I shared with you that one of the areas of opportunity for growth is like belief. What I'm aware of is pushing it away and not sitting in it
Yeah.
leads to a lack of belief.
Yeah.
That lack of acknowledgement and acceptance, like, yeah, that is who I
I
am.
just rolled over it and I glazed over it, and it's not in here.
Yeah, it was more
It's not-
like, you didn't even hear it. It was more like, yeah, and what I'm aware of though is, but what I'm aware of is that actually leads to a lack of belief. Because you're not acknowledging, accepting like things that like are true and who you actually are.
I think then what would be fruitful for all of us is giving legitimate compliments, like giving that, and exactly. And then the second part is actually having us accept it. I think we need to do. So when you see opportunities for that, or anyone here that me or you is doing well, say it.
Yeah, and what I'm aware of is a good practice is to be like, when somebody says it, look them right in the eye and be like, I appreciate you saying that.
Or I received.
Or you know what another good one Rick taught me is, thanks for noticing.
Who taught you that?
Rick Carson. Or another one would be like, hey, that felt really good to hear you say that. Can you say it again? Accepting of those things, acknowledgement of those things is actually love. But it's self-love. And what you're saying to me about like confidence, it has to do with trusting myself, but also having a very high level of self-love.
You would say in the mirror every day, I love you and I trust you. I remember you saying that.
I feel like 10 times. Like, I love you, I love you, I love you, love you, love you, love you, love you, and I trust you.
While you're looking at yourself.
Yeah, in the mirror. Yeah. That's what you're, and what Casey said too, which I thought was dope, is like, when you tell people the truth, they feel it. It goes beyond like intellect, like they feel it. So what I just said, like I'm aware, is true because I felt it. That what you're actually doing is when you acknowledge those things, it's a form of self-love. And it's that you love yourself. And we express that because I think sometimes we when we see that, we express that as like, oh, they're like full of themselves. And I'm aware that there's a difference between like arrogance. I get that. I know that that's different. But I'm also aware like another way to say that is like, man, they really love themselves.
Arrogance is It's like when you feel like you're better than everyone else.
What are we doing? Where are we going? Nice to see you. And why are we going there? Now, these are questions that me and my wife, Carla, have been asking each other for the last 20 years. And at first, the answers to those questions were very pedestrian in nature, very survival-based. We are doing this because we need money to pay bills. Anybody know what I'm talking about? As we started to earn more money and the money superseded the amount that we needed for bills, those questions started to take on a different meaning. I watched my parents have no plan. You know what their plan was? To work hard. I would watch them distract themselves with entertainment, like Dolphins football games. I watched them distract themselves with alcohol and with substances. And as a result, 30 plus years later, not having a plan has repercussions, does it not? Yes. Riddle me this. Why do we live in the richest country in the world and 65% of people live paycheck to paycheck? Is it because of a lack of opportunity? No. It's because of a lack of a plan and a strategy on how to accomplish that plan. Does that make sense? So I watched this, and I personally made a decision. I'm like, look, this is not acceptable to me, okay? I do not want the people that I love and care about and my future family, this is before I met Carla, I don't want this to be my experience because it's not fun, because in that environment, things go along with it, does it not? There's substance issues. There's domestic stuff. There's divorce. What's the main reason why people get divorced? Money! And yet we don't have a plan. Our plan is just to work hard, and that shit doesn't work. And yet we keep doing it over and over and over and over and over again, as though something different is going to take place. So I'm like, look, I don't know what the way is, but I'm either find the way or make the way. And really, to my chagrin, after 16 years of formal education, 12 in high school, and a few more in college, nobody taught me how to plan. Nobody. Isn't that kind of interesting? They taught us that the Spanish Armada was in 1492, which fucking helps me zero. But they didn't tell me how to make a plan or have a strategy. Nobody. Now, we can get into a nuanced conversation as perhaps that's maybe by design. I don't know. I'm not really too concerned about that. What I am concerned about is I was like, okay, I need to understand how to plan. And I need a strategy. And I can't ask my parents because they don't have one. So what I started to do, I read a quote one time that said, those who do not read are no different than those who can't. Aha! Those who do not read are no different than those who can't. Ask yourself a question. How many books you read in the last 12 months? Interesting. How many? Compare that to how many Instagram posts you've seen. Compare that to how many books, how many movies you've watched on Netflix. Binge the whole season. I know you guys be watching Bridgerton in a whole fucking weekend. Don't front. As though that's going to help you. Do you see? So I was like, okay, I need to get access to this information. So what I started to read, I started to obsessively read books. And then I started to get proximity to teachers, coaches, mentors. Now I want to rephrase that kind of name because I don't even like that name. Imagine it as a tour guide. What do tour guides have that you don't? Knowledge. And what do they do for the experience? They make it more interesting and exciting and easier. Because if you got dropped down in a country that you know nothing about and try to figure it out yourself, could you figure it out? Yes. Would it be painful? Yes. Would you go down wrong alleys? Yes. Would you end up in a neighborhood that you don't feel comfortable in? Yes. That is what a guide can do. They can condense decades worth of learning into days, weeks, months, years. So imagine there's like this big peak that I want to go to, and it's far off in the distance, and there's this jungle, and there's a lake. Could you figure out how to get to the peak by yourself? Yeah, probably. It could take a lifetime. But imagine somebody comes out of the woods, they're like, hey man, what's going on? You see that peak over there? I've been there 10 times. So here's what's cool. I can show you the fastest route. I can also show you what to eat and what not to eat. Because if you do it by yourself, are you going to eat some berries and then regret it? Yes. So I realized, okay, I need to get proximity to a guide or multiple guides so they can show me how to do this because my family of origin doesn't know how to do it. And keep in mind, this isn't me shitting on them. They're nice people. They do the best they can under the given set of circumstances. Now, what's also true is they never sought out any additional help or information. And I want you guys to realize something. We are living in an unprecedented fucking time. Do you know 150, 200 years ago, the access to humans that you had was restricted to the geographic place you were born? Now, because of the internet, you're connected to everyone. There is no shortage of information, and it's fucking free. Do you know 150, 200 years ago, people only had one book in their house because they were so expensive. You know what it was? The Bible. That was it. Now, you could have somebody, this titan of industry, who's sold a company for billions of dollars, and they could say, hey man, I'm going to tell you everything I know, all my mistakes, all my pluses, all my minuses, and it'll be $30. And you're like, wow, you know, it's a little much money there. I don't know. That's dumb. Guys, information is currency. Write it down. Information is the real currency, not the paper shit that you chase after. And we live in a time where access to that information is unlimited. Okay? So I spent hundreds of thousands of dollars of my own money to get proximity to people who could show me and teach me a way of planning and strategizing. And what that has allowed me to do in a very short period of time is to not only sell 2,000 homes in my career, the coaching company, that sort of thing, but also make pivots and changes very quickly. So 18 months ago, I was selling 150 homes a year and coaching 30 people one-on-one and the rest in groups, about 100 total. And now today, I haven't gone on a listing appointment in 10 months. I have 212 agents in an organization and I'm financially free and independent. My intention in sharing that with you is not to brag or boast, it's to show you how fast that can happen with the right plan and the right strategy. Does that make sense? And I believe that everybody in this room with the right plan and the right strategy, you could do anything I've done or others that you admire or watch their podcasts in half the time because you have tools at your disposal that they did not. Things like the internet, things like platforms that make distribution free. How many people see me on a regular basis online? Is it possible for you to not see me? No. All day, every day. Do you realize back in the day, you used to have to spend thousands of dollars to get in front of people? Now it's free. But you're like, well, I don't like the way my hair looks. You see what I'm saying? You have tools at your disposal. So, what we're going to do today is we're going to go over probably like 45 minutes, maybe a little more. I'm going to walk you through how to create a plan and how to think about strategy. The same tools that I use to consciously and purposely create a life by design. Not taking what comes, not working hard and hoping it works out, but creating the life that you want. Who's up for this? Say aye. I'm sorry, the energy's not right. Who's up for this? Say aye. Aye. Good, now we're in the right place. So, I think you're recognizing by now that this is the good shit, not the bullshit. I know you guys have been to networking meetings and shit with agents that is completely dumb and makes no sense and is pointless. You're like, well, I did networking. That's dumb. Okay, so we're going to learn some shit today, but this is going to be interactive. It requires you guys to participate. So don't be shy. You will get the most out of this that you put into it. Understood? Yes. Understood? Yes. Okay. So to get our brains to start to think about creating a life by design, I have a couple things I want to ask you. The first is, are you making C+ choices and praying for an A+ life? Yes. Look at the heads nodding. Hey, people are looking at me like, how the fuck did you know that? Are you making C+ choices and asking for an A+ life? What would be an example of C+ choices? Not reading all the time. What else would be an example of C+ choices? Not having a plan. What else would be an example of C+ choices? Who wants to tell me?
Not prospecting.
Not prospecting. And imagining in a marketplace where we go from 6 million sales to 4.2 million sales, that's going to work. It won't. It's a weight loss program. You'll starve to death. Okay? Am I making C+ choices and expecting an A+ life, praying for an A+ life? And I want you to realize where you are currently is the culmination of planning and choices you've made up until this point. Where you are currently is the culmination of planning and choices that you've made up until this point. Now, I know that the human tendency is to want to place blame where? Elsewhere. It's the government. It's these fucking taxes. It's the state of the world right now. We want to constantly and perpetually be placing blame elsewhere. Why do we do that? It preserves our ego. Makes us feel righteous. It's a status game. Status games are dumb. Because what's the reward you get for winning a status game? Nothing. You know when people comment on my posts and it makes them feel better about themselves? It's a status game. I'm like, that's dumb. You know what I'm playing? Wealth fucking games. Do you understand? Really, really think about this one right here. The issue is not getting what you want, it's deciding what you want. You guys are capable. You know you have the same force inside of you that makes the sky, blue and the grass green. The same force inside of you makes the earth spin around the sun at 66,000 miles an hour. Google that shit. That same force is inside of you. Why do we limit it? Why? Why do we not think about what we actually want? Why do we settle for what we don't want? Because it would require me to change. It would require me to admit I'm not as cool as I am, as fast as I am, as smart as I am, as good as I am. People say to me like, oh yeah, I'm a master at scripts. I'm like, how many deals do you do? They're like 30. I'm like, you're not. Ha! Right? It's just not true. So the issue is not getting what you want, it's deciding what you want. Isn't that right, Esteban? Esteban is a coaching client of mine. How much volume will you do this year? 12 million? Solid volume, right? Doing deals, making lots of money. He's young, handsome, makes a lot of money. You know what his challenge is? He's like, yeah, I am handsome. You know what his challenge is? Deciding what he wants. Because he could stay perpetually on the hamster wheel doing deals and getting plastic awards like he's the fucking shit. Right? But he has to decide, what do I actually want? 5 years from now, do I still want to be slanging shit? He told an interesting story where he worked as a valet, back in the day when he was 18 in Miami. It's all cash under the table. He's making what he perceived to be a lot of money at 18 years old. He was the man. You know what he did? He looked around and he saw 40 and 50-year-olds still doing it. He's like, oh no. I don't want to be fucking doing this when I'm 40 or 50 years old. And then he pivoted and he made a change. See, there he was thinking about what he wanted. You understand? But then you can start doing well, making money, and you stop thinking about what you actually want. Okay? So, intentionality in creating a vision and a strategy. Okay? This will ensure, with a high degree of probability, you'll end up in a specific destination. Because I don't want to leave it to dumb luck. Most people don't realize, there's actually 4 types of luck. The first type of luck is dumb luck. What would be an example of dumb luck? Win the lottery. By the way, my parents would buy lottery tickets. That was their plan. Anybody else besides me ever seen people do that?
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's dumb. It's a tax on the poor. They keep half that money? That's my plan. Work hard and buy lottery tickets. Okay? There's 4 types of luck. One is dumb luck. The second form of luck is where you take massive levels of action and hustle and determination and discipline, and what happens is you become an expert at something. And then people seek you out for your expertise. See, I role-played twice a day, 6 days a week for 3 years. Hand-wrote out scripts, prospected 6 days a week for 15 years. Now do you know what people ask me for? Your script. And advice. And they pay me for it. People say, you're lucky. Am I? Or did I create my own luck? You created. Do you see? The third form of luck is that chance favors the prepared mind. If I can see opportunities that other people can't, that's very helpful. Did you know that when Jeff Bezos started Amazon, do you know why he did that? He's a nerd. He was at MIT getting a PhD in mathematics. He saw one statistic. He saw that the internet at that time was growing at 800% a month. He saw an opportunity where other people didn't. Now he's the richest guy in the world.
I grew up with individuals that are very kind and loving, but really didn't know anything about money.
I had no experience in media. It wasn't a real thing for me. Like, I didn't look at this like this was going to be my career.
Yeah, because some people say like, oh, I don't do that. That's not my thing. But what they're basically saying to you is that I don't see myself that way. Knowing who you are as a person, like I know that I'm highly competitive. We probably share that. I know that my need for dominance is high. I want to be put in situations where I can compete and get significance for competing.
Yeah. Welcome back, another episode of Wealthy Creator. I'm your host, Justin Berry, and I have the pleasure with me today, what I'm considering a good friend now. We've been working together for about a year. Been consulting on his social media. He was part of the original OGs of Content Empire, which is now Wealthy Creator, and we're still going strong. I have with me Aaron Novello.
Yeah, what's up, brother?
How you doing, man?
It's awesome to have this conversation with you in person, because we speak on a regular basis, you know, like bi-weekly, and now just to do this in person is great.
Oh man, it's awesome. I'm so glad you was able to make it. We've been planning on this for about, 6-7 months now, trying to get you in, and it's good. You know, it's WealthCon week this week, so you get to see some of the inner workings of everything and the prep for that. So that's exciting. But yeah, man, I'm happy you're able to come out, truly.
For sure.
So Aaron, I'm gonna jump straight into this thing, man. I want to know, I know you as a great businessman, but I want you to tell a little bit of your story so that people can begin to understand who Aaron is, the person, the businessman, the business owner, the individual. Tell me more about yourself.
Yeah, so I grew up with individuals that are very kind and loving, but really didn't know anything about money. And I watched what that environment can do, right, with lack of resources and the things that go along with that. And I had a couple experiences in my life where I just made this internal decision, and I don't know if this has been true for you in your life, where you're like, hey, this is unacceptable to me. And I don't know what the way is, but I'm gonna either find the way or make the way. And that led me to bumping into real estate. And what was really interesting is that when I would do those personality profile tests, I'd always try to will them to come back like surgeon. Because I would look at the list and be like, who makes the most money? And they would always come back salesperson. And I would always try to push it away and be like, no, like that's not what I want to do. And I was actually at a talk. I went to school at the University of Florida, and there was a gentleman there who owned the largest gym in Gainesville. So he was a very wealthy individual. He had his own helicopter and all the accoutrements of success. And he was talking about a book called Think and Grow Rich, which I'm sure a lot of people have read and the audience has read, and that was my first exposure to it. And what was true is that there was also this woman who was very attractive, who was an agent, and she was talking about like being an agent. So I was like, I'm in college, I'm like, hey, maybe that's what I should be doing is like becoming an agent. And that just vibed directly with those personality profile tests. And then I just happened to do well at it. And at the beginning, though, it wasn't like that. I made $13,000 my first calendar year. So not something people would put you on, the Wealthy Creator podcast to teach you how to do that. It's definitely not something people would pay you to coach them to teach you how to do that. I just had an inaccurate assessment of reality. I didn't understand like what the game was and what I should be focusing my time on. And once I got an accurate assessment, it's kind of off to the races. And in 2007, though, I was on track to do about 60 transactions, but my mom had a brain bleed. And in a very short period of time, she was young, she was like 27, I shut down my business immediately within a week, gave away all the listings, all the pendings, and I moved back home. And I started over from scratch. And what was really, I would prefer that didn't happen to my mom, obviously. At the same time, it gave me this internal kind of knowing, which was I had a particular skill set on how to list and sell property in high volume. And that gave me experientially a knowing I can do this anywhere if you just drop me anywhere. So
Yeah. And then, you know, in that new place, it took me first year did 17, then 50, then 85, then 89, then 100. Did 100 a year for 10 years in a row, 200 deals a year twice.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just crushed it after that.
Yeah,
huh?
yeah. And it was really, I think at first, it was like selfish. Because it was about like showing people like I'm the man or I'm really good at this.
Yeah.
And what it evolved into though, because I saw what it could do for others. So when my mom had that brain bleed, I was able to buy her condo and pay cash when I was 27 years old.
Wow.
And I was like, whoa, wait a minute. Like, this isn't about like flexing. This is about I can use this skill or ability to be able to serve other people and help them.
Yeah. So glad you said that because, I mean, you know, our mission here, even in the Beneda company in the wealthy world, you know, it is to serve people, right? Yeah. Like that's what we want to do. We want to enrich communities. And you want to serve people. Yeah. And so hearing your testimony about how you're doing that is amazing. And I 1000% relate. One thing you said earlier before we even get into, you know, the real story, but I want to get into what you talked about, your personality test.
Yeah.
So we use what's called the predictive index for everybody that comes through here, right? And actually when I first started here and they had me take it, it was like my first time actually taking it. I took it at like 11:30 at night.
Real quick? Like,
I didn't care anything about what was going to happen because I kind of, you know, it's funny. In my mind, I was like, I know who I am. I know what I'm capable of. Like, I'm about to just tell the truth on this thing and keep it moving. I didn't overthink it at all. And I came back a persuader.
Really?
Yeah. And so it's funny because I think that personality, I think I came back that way specifically because of my history, one in sports, but I've always been like the captain and the leader and the individual that was kind of like influencing my team. And so I think as a persuader, you know, especially, you know, high school, college, you have to do that, right? Like it's no question. High school, everybody's in there playing around. You have to be the one that kind of not only leads by example, but is able to talk on a level that anybody can understand to get them to do what we're trying to accomplish here. Now, our team was like 4th in the state for 2 years straight, right? And we battled with all of the top teams. So I found that to be like mission accomplished for me as I was ending. I was like, all right, I've lost a total of maybe, I think it was 11 games all 4 years. Yeah. All right. So I did pretty good. Then when I got to college, I was like, oh, I'm starting all over again. All right. And even still, it was like, all right, how can I, you know, get implemented in this new system and this around these new teammates. Some of them are 5th year seniors. So now you're an 18-year-old kid with grown men, right? Like you're trying to figure out how to, you know, really kind of make yourself a presence in a locker room that already is established. And one way of doing that was, you know, selling yourself to everybody else, letting them know who you are and what you have to offer. Yeah. And so it's funny, like you talked about that, like, you know, you were trying to think, what can I come back as? And you know what that made me do when I came back as a persuader? It made me go check and see what everybody else was.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I'm like, all right, Ryan Pineda is successful, all right? And at the time, I didn't know him really. I just knew, like, I mean, I knew about the opportunity. I didn't know him. I'm like, let me check and see what he came back as, because if I'm anywhere near that, okay, I know.
I'm good.
Yeah, just follow the footsteps, right? Yeah. Like, and then I start checking everybody else, like that was in leadership roles around the company, and I'm like, okay, what are they? Like, where did they fall on this predictive index? And then I'm like, how true is this thing anyway? So then I actually read it, and you know, it's so spot on.
Accurate.
So accurate. Like, it's unreal how accurate this thing is. And so, but yeah, I say all that to say, like, you're 1000% right about going and being like, okay, I need to make sure I come back as, you know, a certain thing, but it does help. Not only, it helped me with the confidence to be able to kind of step out and be a leader in positions that I never, like, I had no experience in media, right? Like, it wasn't a real thing for me. Like, I didn't look at this like this was going to be my career when I was playing ball and when I was doing other things. Like, that wasn't in the plan. I just had fun doing it on the side, kind of a side hustle if I could make some money. And so I'm saying all that to say, like, I can totally relate to how you were like, all right, what am I coming back as? It didn't fit what you thought of yourself.
Yeah, and I think what's true is that you can only behave in accordance with the way you see yourself.
Yeah.
That's like, and what's interesting to me about that is, and that applies to social too, because some people say like, oh, I don't do that. That's not my thing. But what they're basically saying to you is that I don't see myself that way.
Yeah.
And so then it's like, okay, how do I work on self-image? Now, part of it is data. So if you take like the predictive index and you know you're a persuader or a captain or a maverick or, you know, whatever your profile is, that helps you to get clarity between the difference between the way I think I am or the way I actually am.
Right.
So I had a coaching client recently and he's like, hey man, I think that you see me different than I am. I said, that's quite possible. What's also possible, because people pay me to see what's true, is that I see you the way you actually are, not the way you think you are.
Not the way you see yourself, right?
Not the way you see yourself or the way you would like to be perceived.
Yeah.
So by, you know, knowing who you are as a person, like I know that I'm highly competitive. We probably share that. I know that my need for dominance is high. I know that I want to be put in situations where I can compete and get significance for competing.
Yeah.
So if you know that about yourself, then you can position yourself in situations that you can let your gift out. And what's also true is if I know, let's say I know you're a persuader, now as a leader, that helps me because now I know how to interact with you.
Exactly.
I know how to inspire you. I know how to kind of push buttons a little bit because you're competitive.
Yeah.
So I could be like, hey bro, like,
Hey.
where you at?
Right,
And then you're like,
right.
what? And then you want, right?
Yeah, then you going after it.
Yeah.
I mean, it truly is like, and this is for anybody that's listening or watching who is operating a business and not using some type of personality test when they do their hiring, when they, like, even if you already have the established business, go back and make everybody take this test.
Yeah.
Not only does it help you hire, but also helps you with how you manage each individual.
100%.
Right? Like Ryan knows that if he comes to me and goes, the numbers ain't really doing what they should be doing, that I'm up all night.
Yeah, you're like, excuse me?
Like he knows that, right? Like he doesn't, and for the most of the time, you don't have to tell me because I'm seeing it too, right? Like I'm trying to figure out why something isn't working. And so, but it is true. Like you can implement those things in your business that help you work while also using it to operate in your own systems.
Exactly. And what I think is so awesome is that we were talking about this off camera. If we go back to you can only behave in accordance with the way you see yourself. What's so beautiful about this kind of journey that both of us have been on at the same time, where your tendency in the past was to be behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And somebody had to cast a vision, Ryan probably, of, hey, you can do this. This is a role you can step into.
Yeah.
But at that time, you didn't see yourself that way. Yeah. And even now what's happening, we were talking like on our last call, and you're like, bro, people are coming up to me and it's weird.
Yeah.
But what's happening is the new version, the new way you see yourself is clashing with the old. And I think with every evolution, I do believe that business is not a material journey. I think it's a spiritual one.
Yeah.
And our comfort keeps us from our calling.
That's
So
good.
there's something that comes right up to it, and it's like, yo, this is really uncomfortable for me. I don't do that's not who I am.
Yeah.
But as you step into that, because you can only behave in accordance with the way you see yourself, as you start to see that more and more, then you behave as that individual. And then that just happens and it's normal for you and it's not a big
natural.
deal.
Yeah, and I'm, like you said, we're going through it now,
Yeah.
right? Like it was one of those things where you have the opportunity to level up in a way,
Yeah.
right? And you've been working for the level up, but you haven't been like clear on what that even means or what that like will bring to
Yes.
you, right? Like you understand, yes, scaling my business is important. I'm gonna do everything I need to do to scale the business, right? Like you understand that. You get on social media, you're like, okay, I'm trying to drive leads.
Yeah.
I'm trying to grow influence.
Yeah.
I'm trying to grow my downline. I'm trying to, like, there's all these things that come with why you are putting out content. And then there's the moment of, oh no, they're seeing me differently now.
Yeah.
And now I have a responsibility.
Yes.
And I almost owe it to them to give out what is due, right? Like to give them everything that I have, because again, we're coming from the place of I want to serve people.
100%. So the reason I got all excited is I was having a conversation with a member of our team. She's part of our organization, Elite Builders at EXP. And I see her as like a commander. Like she can build and help a lot of people. And she told me a story 3 years ago while we were having dinner. And I said to her out loud, you need to tell that story more often.
Yeah.
But you know what her first response was? I'm not comfortable because I have shame about it. And I'm like, well, instead of having shame, you should be proud of what you've been through. And a lot of people would benefit from that.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I think there's a difference between a plan, a strategy. So a plan is like, hey, I want to do this on social. I want to have 10K. I want to do whatever. A strategy is, how am I going to do that, which you guys can help with?
All right.
more importantly, why? So what I'm aware of, the reason why we're here doing all this is because I know, I was telling my wife this the other day, is there a small part of me that digs it when people recognize me? Sure, I'm human.
Right, yeah,
like
yeah.
the flesh is weak. Like, of course I'm gonna be like, oh, that's kind of cool, right?
Yeah.
More importantly though, I know that as I get more attention, that helps other people grow. That's what I'm aware of. So that's the driving force behind it. And I think a lot of people, it's just my experience, they're just doing content, they're copying other people in hopes that they can get something that they can get followers from.
Yeah.
And I think that's completely the wrong way to do it. Instead, I think if you're authentic about what you believe, you will pull people towards you, but you will also become polarizing. You will push people away that aren't into your vibe. Business is really relationships plus value over time. What media does is it compresses the time that it takes to formulate a relationship. Even though I'd never met you in the flesh, you came to a meeting last month and you said to me, I've been
watching you.
Which made you feel like you?
Knew you.
Oh, how interesting. So he formulated a para-social relationship with us. And in the time that you were watching, I added a lot of
Value.
interesting. So then when you were thinking about making a decision about changing companies, who did you talk to?
I heard Novello.
And when did you change?
Yesterday.
$12 million producer making that decision like this. Did I talk to you about features and amenities? Did I talk to you about how, fucking benefits? I'm telling you guys, this is it. It's the magic formula. And the reason why it's such a huge competitive advantage is because everybody else is doing it wrong.
How do you think it's gonna be? It could be a good form to sell pre-construction.
Anything. So pre-construction, a lot of homeowners don't realize that there's actually there's available inventory that you can get at a low interest rate.
Sorry, I repeat my question. Like luxury pre-construction.
Same. Why not? So think about what the problems that luxury buyer has. Think about, is it surviving or thriving? A lot of people are trying to get money out of Mexico right now. I just read an article. They're dumping money into Miami real estate. So we just had a client who is trying to get money out of their country of origin and they're not sure how to go about doing it. Well, here's an example of a property that if you did this, here are the benefits you would get. 1, 2, and 3. If you want to have a confidential conversation about this process and how to do it, DM me the word new construction. Notice, once you figure out the formula, can I do it like this with anything?
You can change it, yeah.
To anything. Because it's just a formula. It's a format. It follows the same format every single time. Nothing should come out of my mouth that is not following this format. Okay? Potential customers must answer these 3 questions if we want them to engage with us. What do I offer? How will it make my life better? What do I need to do to buy it? And that's part of the CTA is a call to action. So the next step would be is we hop on a quick discovery call. If it makes sense to you, we'll send you the agreement. After that, we'll send you a Stripe link. We'll get started. Is that very clear, the steps that you go through to get it? Anybody besides me have ever been online and it hasn't been clear how you buy something so you fucking leave? Yes, all the time. It's like not clear. They don't give me the clear steps. I'm even interested. When a customer understands how they can live a wonderful story with you, your company will grow. When they understand how they can thrive under your guidance, everything you do will grow, everything. The customer is the hero, not you. When we position the customer as the hero and us as the guide, we will position ourselves as a trusted resource to help overcome their challenges. Think about this. Who's the weakest, the second weakest person in the whole story? Who's the first weakest? The villain. Voldemort doesn't even have a body. It's the weakest person in the whole story. Who's the second weakest person in the whole story? The hero, which you keep positioning yourself as. What we do is we try to sell features and amenities of buying or our lending or whatever, right? But what problem are they really trying to solve? They're afraid that they're not going to be able to live in that particular home or in that community. They're afraid that they'll have to rent forever. We try to sell features and benefits. We don't buy features and benefits. We buy solutions to internal problems, not external problems. Customers are attracted to us for the same reasons heroes are pulled into the story. They want to solve problems that have big or small way disrupted their lives. By talking about our problems our customers face, we deepen their interest in everything that we offer. 3 levels of problems that we're trying to solve: internal or external, internal, and philosophical. Customers are much more motivated to solving internal problems. That's like we were talking about, right? Philosophical, like you mentioned, Nikki, is like good and evil. That's like a philosophical problem. Meets a guide. Customers are not looking for another hero, they're looking for a guide. If heroes in the story could solve their own problems, they would. That's why they need a guide. Nearly every human, listen to this sentence, okay? Every human is looking for a guide to help them to win the day. Every single one in the areas we talked about. Finance, health, relationships, right? We're all looking for somebody to help us to save the day. If you position yourself as the hero in the customer subconscious like we talked about, oh, here's another hero. I wish I could actually stop and listen to what David has to say, but I'm too busy trying to find a guide to help me to solve my problems. How am I positioning myself? Now, who gives them a plan? The plan has to be clear. So you'll notice as I'm saying this plan, is it super complicated? 1, 2, 3. Here's the 3-step plan that we use to help an international buyer buy new construction. Okay, so one of the things that we did, that we implemented with Esteban in our one-on-one coaching, is I was like, hey bro, you should do webinars. Because that's in alignment with the world that we live in, is it not? Yeah. How many agents are doing webinars, by the way? Fucking 0. So I said to him, hey, do this. He does a lot of new construction. He has international buyers that want to buy new construction but don't know how. Send a group text out to your whole database and say, hey, I'm doing a webinar on how to buy a new construction home in 2024. I'd love for you to be there. Here's the Eventbrite link. How many people showed up? 40. He put himself with a lender, so he's automatically positioned as the what? The guide to help them to solve their problems. Somebody bought a new construction home from that, correct? What was the price?
It was a little bit over 700.
Yeah, what was the commission?
4%.
Yeah, so $28,000 from a webinar. Yeah. Oh, but anyway, he didn't pick up the phone and call them. Okay. Customers trust a guide with a plan. So we trust a guide with a plan. So me posting about myself, do consumers see that I have a plan for anything? No, maybe I have a plan for working out. I have a plan for vacationing. But I don't have a plan to help them to solve their problems. I have a plan for eating because I show you my food all the time. But I don't have a plan to help them to solve their problems. The clear path we lay out takes away any confusion about the customer doing business with us. People are looking for a philosophy they can embody and steps that they can take to solve their problems. And we call them to action. Customers don't take action unless we challenge them to take action. Okay, I know that some of us have an issue with asking people to do things. Do you know what we ask people who ask people to do things? You know what they're called? Rich. That's what they're called. And what it says here, when we don't call them to action, they just watch. That's all they do. They're watching you in the car, they're watching you working out, but they're not engaging with you. You have to call them to action. DM me the word join. DM me the word buy. DM me the word sell. DM me the word sell so you can get this free PDF on how to, the new construction thing. And it's a lead magnet where now you capture all their emails. They've done statistics, so like we do events all the time, and I know that if I want people to do something, let's say I said to you like, again, if I direct you somewhere digitally, I'll lose 30% of traffic. If I'm selling a course at the end of this, and I say, hey, if I don't put it up right now while you're sitting here, and I put something tangible in your hands, like something that's on the table, that's why people do that. Because I'm keeping you in the world that you're in right now, and sales go up 30%. Yeah, once you begin to have clear calls to action, customer understand exactly what you want them to do, and they decide whether you will play a role in their story. So how many people watch my YouTube videos? Majority of them. And in there, particularly in the description, is there a call to action in some way? What are the examples of calls to action? Buy this course, or book a call with me. And what's beginning to happen now is 5 to 6 to 10 times a month, people are booking calls with me that I've never spoke to in my life. One guy yesterday was in Arizona, another guy in Puerto Rico, bro. Wants to talk to me about courses and partnering. This is how this all works together. Make sense? Helps them to avoid failure. Every human being is trying to avoid a tragic end. The question is, what is at stake? If nothing is gained or lost, nobody cares. So if we go back to that like foreclosure thing, so let's say like, here's a client that we helped, right? Here's the plan that we used. If you want to have a confidential conversation so you can avoid losing your home and getting nothing, DM me the word sell. I'm letting you know clearly what's at stake. If you want to stay in this business and not have to go get a job driving Uber, DM me the word join. Never assume people understand your brand can change their lives. You have to tell them. We must tell our customers how great their life can look like if they buy our products and services. If you don't tell them. Now, people confuse this with, I have to show them all about me and me traveling and my cool shit. And no, that's not what this is. You have to show them how their life will improve, not you. You see how it's easy to get that mixed up? Very easy. Okay, so Gabriella, you can hand these out real quick. We're actually gonna give you these. Think about a character. It could be a seller, it could be a buyer, and you could be an international buyer, you could be an international, like whatever. Think about what their problems are. The external problems and the internal problems and the philosophical problems. How can you demonstrate empathy, that you understand what that feels like? Demonstrate that you're competent, you know what you're doing. What's the plan that you can use to help them? What are the calls to action? What are they going to get as a result? What are they going to avoid?
I'll share mine.
Go ahead.
So,
I'm sorry, your name again? Loud.
Okay, Jada.
Jada, loud and proud.
So
Yeah, like Pinkett, the white version. Yeah.
That's right, white Jada. So right now, the character is my seller. They want to sell their house to get into a more spacious home with a yard.
Yeah. Okay, good. So more spacious home with a yard. So what's the external problem, internal problem, philosophical problem?
The external I put is what can they really afford in today's market. The
Yes.
internal problem is having to possibly move quickly and also preparing their house for the market.
And I think that's actually an external problem. So what would the internal problem be? Keeping up with the Joneses. I want a bigger backyard because if I don't, I feel like I'm not successful. That's an internal problem. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That, and people actually make decisions to solve internal problems, not external ones. So most move-up buyers, it's an aspirational thing. It's a lifestyle thing. But what is the internal problem they're trying to solve? Like, I want to have a bigger backyard because it makes me feel like I'm...
Well, they want to be able to park the boat and not
Okay.
have to be in an HOA.
Right, so the internal problem is I want to be... Okay, so this is good because it leads to the philosophical problem. So the internal problem is, yeah, like, I want to... It's a reflection of, like, me and my lifestyle. And if I don't do it, then I'm not successful. You know what the philosophical problem is?
Well, for them, I put they wanted to ask the grandparents for a gift towards down payment.
Yeah, that's interesting. So, well, the philosophical problem is they don't like being told what to do. That's why they want to be in an HOA that has no rules or no HOA. They want freedom. Yeah. That's the philosophical problem. External problem is they have to ask somebody for money. The internal problem, when they ask them, they feel like little kids because they are. Just grown up. Because the way it works in the real world is if you don't have any money, guess what? You can't fucking buy it. That's how it works. Good, but do you see the distinction?
Yeah.
Now we're getting clear, good. And then what's the plan you're going to give them? Or how can you deploy empathy, so the character, how can you deploy?
Yeah, so the empathy was, you know, just that it never hurts to ask for a gift.
Or if you were to say, because that's like, so how can you let them know that you know how that feels? Have you ever asked for anything in your life?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So do you see how that wasn't even a consideration though?
Right. Yeah.
It was more like what most of us do. You know, I love when people post all these quotes about like, you know, you only have one life to live, so thrive. I know everybody, they're fucking a mess. But we don't want to lead with vulnerability. So how could you lead with vulnerability in a situation in your life where you had to ask for something?
Yeah, just sharing a realistic story.
Like?
Having my aunt and uncle step up and purchase a condo for my sister and I when we were in.
Perfect! So do you see how that is actually deploying empathy?
Yeah.
So, you know, we have a buyer that it needs to ask for a down payment and they feel a little internally conflicted. And it made me think about a time in my life where I had to ask. My grandparents actually gave me money in order for me and my sister to buy our first condo. And if you're gonna do this, here are the 3 things that I would pay attention to make sure you preserve the relationship and it's done properly. 1, 2, 3. So if you're interested in finding out more information about getting a gift to buy a home, DM me the word buy. You see how that's all in the format? But we're afraid to lead with vulnerability because we want to show everybody that we're the shit and we want to give like advice. Guys, I want everybody in this room to hear something. You had to get a 75 on a test, have $1,000 and not be a felon yet.
Yeah.
That was your criteria to become an agent. So why do you feel compelled to dispense information about life and fucking wisdom about life? Why? Or finances? Just lead with vulnerability and you'll attract way more people. And then do you see how now the plan that you can give? And then here's how you can get what you want, which is the home, and avoid what you don't want, which is not owning one. And then what would be the CTA? Call to action.
I put just setting the date and time and bringing the paperwork for them to sign for the listing.
Yeah, so, well, let's do, like the call to action could be like, if you want to learn more about, you know, how to do this, DM me the word blank. That's a call. If you want to learn more, be sure to follow me. That's a call to action. But do you see how by doing this, you're positioning yourself as a guide?
Yeah.
to help people to solve their problems in real estate, because that's the business you guys are in, okay? Not working out, you're not traveling agents, you're not like foodies where you get paid to fucking post things about food, okay? So stop doing it.
I grew up with individuals that are very kind and loving, but really didn't know anything about money.
I had no experience in media. It wasn't a real thing for me.
What's up, team? We are here with the talented, very successful Mr. Lars.
Good looking.
Yeah, oh, that's true. Yeah. Good looking.
Humble.
Yeah, humble at the same time. Heddenborg. You know, it's not a regular occurrence that I sit down with someone that like actually punched me in the stomach. You didn't physically punch me in the stomach, but you did it with a question.